Hey, welcome to Pretty Blunt. I'm your host, Jamie Lipowitz. I'm joined today, well, always, not just today, by my partner in crime, Sabine Schwartz. What's up, girl? What do you got for me today?
A noodle of hot gossip I'll give is I will not actually always be the person that joins. Sometimes someone else could join or other people could join.
That's fair.
We've been talking a lot about this, about that we have brand spaces on the feed, obviously, but brand spaces are a commitment. And that's really like the hot piece of gossip is like, it is actually work.
Oh, you mean engaging with budtenders and having a strategy and a plan for how you talk to them is work?
Mhm.
Oh my God, shocking.
Here's the thing is like it's not about the one-time engagement. You and I talk about this all the time. And so like really why isn't it about the one-time engagement? Like why do you need to be there all the
Well,
time?
it's a trust building exercise. Like that's the reality. It's like take it out of Bud Tender brand and put it in anywhere else. It takes a long time to build trust. It's not a one and done. I tell you one thing once and you believe it. It's telling you the same thing over and over and over again and then showing you that that is in fact true over and over and over again. So a brand can talk about quality as an example and give out a sample once. Okay, cool. You did it once, but can you tell the story over 12 months and give out a few samples and then get a few different group samples and have them convince each other that what you're saying is true? There's a time horizon to things and it's not one and done. You wouldn't marry somebody after you went on one great date with them. It's not the same thing, but it's the same thing.
That's interesting because I think we talk to our clients a lot about how it needs to be thought of as like a real channel. If you handed out your phone number, it wouldn't be available to use once. Like people want to contact you there regularly. It is a thing that like needs attention because the people that you serve and your potential customers need attention. I think that's the only way I can think of it.
Otherwise, you're essentially saying, okay, well, the only way you can contact me is through like somebody coming into your store. So you got to be there when that happens. That's the only way you can like connect the dots on who we are as a brand, or like maybe send an email to like an anonymous inbox and hope and pray that you get an answer.
So then we have a couple clients who are doing really good things with their brand spaces. Why are they doing it really well when other people maybe aren't or like haven't seen it? Like what does a good brand space look like?
The best brand spaces, so one, they use storytelling and the ability to connect that way. They are consistent, but there's clear messaging attached that involves the community. So like I thought it was amazing when, I'm not going to say who, but posted around what would a dream all-in-one look like, and they got the bud tenders to come in and weigh in on what a dream all-in-one looks like. Are these things like nice to haves? Are they must haves? Are they need to haves? Like what the various new features that the brand is working on. But it brings the bud tenders into the fold from day one. So they've asked for their opinion as an example, and they've produced a poll and, communicated back and forth with the comments. And then when they do make a move in one way or another, because innovation is always fluid and happening, they can then refer back to that poll and say, hey guys, we heard this from you. Here's why we made these decisions. And it brings the community into decision making. It takes the subject matter experts into consideration when making business decisions and investments. And then it's also planting the flag to connect back to the bud tender so that they feel like they're a part of it. And that's just like one example, like Cora from Pure Sun Farms crushes it. And I think because she's just real, she really is like loves weed, is a nerd weed, is not trying to like pull the wool over anyone's eyes. She shows up authentically when she doesn't have an answer to a question. She acknowledges it and like finds the answer.
Even before talking about Cora though, something that you and I have been discussing a lot, and I think this is our this is our build in public, like let's have the conversation, is like we have been saying that we potentially don't want people to do like 1 month of brand space access or
Well, that's
three
why we took it
months.
away.
So like but why have we been like why did we take it away? Like why is this better?
Yeah, I mean, I think because it's not going to work if you show up for 30 days and dip your toe. It's just not. The reality is that with anything, it takes time to build advocacy and it takes time to build affinity. And if you are coming and testing in a vacuum. Really, on from my perspective, what I'm hearing is I don't believe in this. I don't have a strategy and I want to dip my toe and see what it is. Instead of, I understand that this is a day-to-day commitment. There is an element of this that does need to be thought about and considered. And Rome wasn't built in a day. Like, you do have to show up, you do have to communicate, you do have to have good and bad things happen and then redeem yourself. It doesn't just happen in 30, 60, or 90 days.
Well, and so going back to like the Cora example is Cora's built a rapport with the Budtenders to have those conversations and so that they know that they can have that access. Whereas like sometimes I have partners that'll be like, oh, well, I dropped something in the chat last week and like, it didn't get that much of a response. And I'm like, you have to keep engaging with them because it is about building that rapport. And that actually does happen over time. Building that trust with a brand happens over time. Like there's no point in us giving you access to something that's not going to be successful for you.
No, but it also, like, to your point, it happens over time, but they do require multi-channel human interaction. So, like, Drew from Dreamfields is a really good example. From Jeter is the brand that's from Dreamfields. He does a PK with us every 60 days. His brand space is always popping. He's always got something going on, something for the buds to engage with. But I do think that the showing up live every 60 days has paid dividends. I wish I knew how to like do the editing from TikTok where they like hold things over the screen. But like Drew will often send us text messages that when he's out in market that people say to him like, "Oh, I know you from High Buds Club. I've seen you on High Buds Club." That's the connective tissue that builds trust when he's IRL in real life. He gets to get scale on the trust because he's showing up day after day and doing the work.
We've talked about Jeter a million times, and I think Jeter is such a good best in class example of like what a brand actually needs to be in what cannabis is today. Like, I don't know if that's still going to mean the same thing in 10 years. Like, I don't know. But as of today, Jeter is an incredible best in class example of building a brand. That's been their success is multiple touch points over time and showing up over time and having the same story retold multiple times in different spaces and places over and over again. And I think that's why again, is why they've been so successful. The attention, the mind share is there because they're there all the time.
Well, that's right. They're there all the time. Everywhere you look, they're there. And good marketing is not one and done. Good marketing is over and over and over again. And it's not, oh, we said this before, 30 days ago. Now we need a new message. No, it's this, it's literally the same message over and over and over again. Because I think we've heard this a few times from like our clients when they go, "Oh, we told the bartenders that. They already know."
Mhm.
And it's like, no, 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 no. Because that's your brand and you're obsessed with it. And you think that everything that you've produced from that brand, everybody has seen. You've done great work, you've put the ground pieces, but you need distribution on that message and you need that distribution over and over and over again. And the reality is that all High Buds Club is a distribution channel for brand messaging.
You make it sound simple, but I think a lot of people also just don't even know what their brand message is.
Simple, not easy. That's the difference. It is simple. It's just not easy. Just to put a caveat to that, not only are they not thinking about you all the time and a million brands are competing for that piece of mind share, they're thinking about things outside of this world. They're thinking about their rent. They're thinking about their partner's birthday. They're thinking about the party they get to go to next week. They're thinking about whatever people think about. People have a million and one interests. So you're competing for mind share for a slice of their brain. But then that slice of their brain, a million and one other brands are also competing for that. So I can't remember what the exact stat is, but it takes like 7 times of somebody hearing about your brand to even like remember that it exists. So that one time that you dropped off a sample in store is one time. I would venture a guess that it takes 20 times for it to even resonate, for them to even remember that they heard about your brand. And then how many more times, if you're not getting them on, sort of like that initial land grab for mindshare, how many more times does it take for your brand to be relevant? So, okay, you sent a rep into store. Let's look at the province of Ontario. There's 1,700 stores. So some stores will only get a visit once a year at most. And then what if the person wasn't there and they didn't go to the trade show and they don't have Instagram? So what, you're just never going to try to talk to them? Okay. See how well that works.
Engaging with budtenders is not a one-time thing. I think engaging with your customers is also not a one-time thing. And that's really what we see is like people think that they can do one big splash. They're like, oh, I'm gonna go out and do like a press launch or a big party for my product launch. And then there's nothing ever spoken again. And like, how many brands do I buy a bottle of wine of just because I like the label and I don't actually remember the brand or the product and I'll never buy it again?
Well, the other thing too is you have to remember why you're messaging the target to begin with.
Hmm.
So, when you're looking for somebody to purchase your product, right? You're looking for a sale. What you're looking for from a bud tender is not a sale. You're looking for advocacy. And advocacy doesn't happen with a message once. Advocacy happens when you've told stories effectively, you've won mindshare, they believe the thing that you're telling them, and they want to repeat that outwards into the world. That's what you're trying to get from a bud tender. It's a nice to have if the bud tender buys your product. Sure, it's a nice to have. It is not a need to have. So, can you really gain advocacy by telling somebody something once and then going away?
No.
Correct. So that's why the feed is not one and done. It's never going to work if you think it's just we're going to talk about it once. They're going to remember and, see you later. It works when you show up every day, right? It's a practice, unfortunately. And I know that that's not the answer that a lot of people want to hear. I think a lot of people want to either like buy big early, like they think that they can buy that advocacy. They can, spend all the money in the world to get distribution and shelf space. But we've seen it time and time again. A store has 600 SKUs. You've bought your way to shelf space. You have zero advocacy and nothing turns. Not once, ever. Like that's I think what I'm trying to say is like you said something once. Okay, so what? So did a million other people competing. Say it again and again and again.
We also hear from our clients sometimes that it's a lot of work, which I agree with. I don't think that that's wrong. And I think we can talk about why it does need to be actually like an investment, but it's not meant to be net new. Like exactly like what you're saying is repeating the same thing over and over. You have to retell the same story a million times. That one story can be broken up into 75 different things. We're expecting you to be able to show up and represent yourself on the channel, and it does not need to be a fully net new creation.
That's true, but the reality is that a lot of people in this industry don't get what the opportunity is. So they're going on vibes. It's vibes only.
It is vibes only.
Okay, that event was cool. That thing was cool. So what? Lots of things are cool. So you're going to make a newspaper, 30 people are going to see it, and then 6 months later you're going to make another one and another 30 people are going to see it. Like who cares?
But I love collecting memorabilia.
If you're a super fan, memorabilia is great. But if I'm running a business and trying to build a brand, I want to make sure my assets are going to sweat. So I'm going to invest in the creation of this thing. I want to make sure that as many eyeballs have seen it, I can reuse it again, see it again. I can reuse it in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. I can bring it back as a limited edition drop. And I'm not constantly investing in new creative endeavors that no one has seen.
Okay, so good point. So I was going to ask you bluntly, Jamie, what is the opportunity then for the brand space? Like, what is actually the opportunity? What are people missing when they don't have one?
Yeah, I mean, the opportunity is that you get access to 20% of all the bud tenders in the country at a click of a button, and you get to show up day after day, show them your personality, give them experiences, hype them up, and get them excited. I also want to caveat one more thing.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying that it's not work to be on the HBC feed. What I am saying is that brands do a lot of really pointless work and they think it's helping their brand. So when you often hear me say simple, not easy, it's very simple. You reallocate the resources that are ineffective to the opportunity that has proven time and time again to be effective. But if you don't believe in it, it's never going to work. So it doesn't matter.
Can you give me an example of that reallocation?
So we have stats around investment into High Buds Club and what that nets from a rebuy perspective from the OCS, how it's effective for a brand halo perspective when when you do programming with us, what that does to a lot of your other SKUs, and how, we help brands gain traction in places that they didn't previously have traction. When you're putting resources into things that can't be proven and you're like, "Oh, but it's cool." Well, I'm giving you a proven system that works, and you're choosing to use your resources in places that you think are cool instead of places that have proven to have return on investment.
I think another example that I can give as well is like just the way that you utilize the thing. If you're creating materials and they're only living in one folder that your sales reps occasionally forward out, that's not effective. And so it's like, how are you utilizing the materials that you're also already making? Because those materials don't get utilized when someone scans a QR code at a trade show.
Yeah.
It has to be directly connected and be like, "Oh, this is a thing that you can come to all the time." Like, we are really a resource functionality in a lot of ways.
Well, and it also is a direct line to the community, and for the community to have a direct line to the brand. I think this podcast is turning into a Cordelia Barber fan fest. But why I think Cora has been so great at using the feed is that budtenders go in there all the time and ask her direct questions, like about product specific. They need a resource from the brand to help them. And Cora has become that resource, and so we see often that the buds use the Pure Sun Farms and Super Toast brand spaces to ask real questions because they have not been able to get answers from the other channels. That tells me that a lot of LPs have broken systems and they don't realize that the systems are broken because the community of bud tenders, and not High Buds Club, I'm talking about the overarching community of bud tenders, are saying, "We're trying to get answers. You're asking us to advocate for you. We're trying to get answers, and your system is broken, and we can't get an answer." So they've turned to High Buds Club to get those answers. And the brands that show up properly and understand the opportunity to win advocacy is there. And that's a trust building exercise. We started this podcast. Trust is not one and done. It really isn't. Trust happens over time. It happens over a sustained period of time. People might trust you initially, and then the trust is yours to lose or to break. On the flip, they don't trust you and they've watched what you've done over a consistent period and they begin to trust you. Whichever lens you're looking at it from, there's a time horizon required to build trust, to build advocacy. It's not one and done. And that's why the feed is not one and done. And that's why brands can no longer access it for short periods of time. It is a commitment. We need you committed to it. And if you do it and you do it properly, you'll win.
The one thing that I wanted to mention, because I think this is something that is hot gossip, the feed is both for product marketing and brand marketing, and they are different things
Correct.
that exist in your roster. So, product marketing, yes, you should be telling the bud tenders what's dropping, when, remind them about core SKUs. Absolutely. But that is not the only purpose. You should still have other messaging going on to build that trust and that relationship with the bud tenders. So, I think that's really it, is like a lot of this industry is just so focused on the product marketing side that we've forgotten or have not realized yet that the rest of it, and I would say, is almost more important, the brand marketing. Going back to the Cora thing, going back to why the brand space is a long-term opportunity, is Cora actually utilizes it as a supplement to their sales team.
Well, it is.
Then that's exactly my point. But 24/7, there is someone always available for them. And Cora will say, "Oh, I'll connect you with your rep," if it's relevant. It is meant to be a supportive system for overall sales enablement.
Yeah, and I mean, a good marketing and sales strategy is not one channel. It's not investing all of your dollars into a field sales team. It's not investing all of your dollars into trade shows or trade assets. It's not investing all your dollars into TikTok and Instagram and not owning any of your systems, right? Like, a good marketing and sales strategy is multi-channel, and it's looking at all the channels that are available to you and saying, what is the most effective effective channel and how do I get the most return out of it? Early days of High Buds Club, I went through this exercise and I was like, I need Instagram. And I invested tons in Instagram. Once I got that channel going, and I, actually had time to like think critically about it, I was like, this is so stupid. One, I can't transact on Instagram. Two, the bud tender isn't the customer that pays High Buds Club, right? Like, so I'm not using this as a marketing channel. I'm using this as a bud tender acquisition tool. Yes, bud tender acquisition is a part of the overall value of High Buds Club, but at that point, Instagram was a nice to have and not a need to have. Three, when I looked at the content that was resonating, it was all content that was like cheap and cheerful and really fun and engaging. It wasn't the product reviews and all these other things that I thought would resonate on the channel. And so we have a lot of clients who are like, we spend all this time and all of this on Instagram. And it's like, great, then you already know how to produce a content calendar. If you already know how to produce a content calendar, you already have the baseline to be able to show up on the HBC feed. All you have to do is reposition pieces of that content so that it's relevant for the budtender. Great. But they look at it as an obstacle and not an opportunity.
The brand spaces are a part of your overall engagement strategy, and you have to be present. Like, it is half the battle is literally showing up. Like, literally, that is it.
It's also exponentially cheaper than hiring a sales rep. Sorry, not sorry.
Break it down for me.
Well, you hire a body. Let's go on like a shoestring budget. So you're hiring a rep to run around. You're either going to pay them on a per store visit or you're going to pay them on a salary, right? So like, let's just assume it's a salary. Even if it's an agency, you're probably paying the agency like a base rate and then a cost per visit. Let's just assume it's a salary, okay? You're going to pay somebody $50,000 to $60,000 a year on the low end because like that's just what things cost today. So you're going to pay somebody $50,000 to $60,000. You're going to pay them for, I would imagine, their time. You're also likely going to pay for like gas / mileage. If you hire somebody on as an employee, likely you have to provide benefits of some kind. So when you break it down, they can maybe visit 5 stores a day effectively, or like 25 a week. And so to get like 100, to do 100 PKs, as an example, that's a month-ish of time, a month and a half of time. So you don't have speed on your side, and you're paying $50 to $75 every time they do that PK for them to drive around, to walk into a store, to this. You open up the HBC feed, on the click of a button, Sabine gets 125 at minimum bud tenders out for a PK. You get them engaged for an hour all at once. They're all hyping each other up. Anyone listening to this who wants to show up to a High Buds Club PK to be a fly on the wall, hit me up. I'll let you in. I'll show you what it's all about. And then you have a space for them afterwards to ask any questions, to connect back and forth, to talk to them about what they learned, and to connect the dots. When you go into a store and you're disconnecting, right? Like the bud tenders are disconnected. So they don't know if you went into this sessions or that Tokyo smoke or like whatever. So they talk about the thing they learned. They advocate back and forth to each other. If a sample is involved, we'll often see like, the nug shot or like the resin ring on the pre-roll show up over and over and over again. So you get this community of 125-ish people show up. They advocate to each other that it's valuable and it's important. And then they advocate again and double down on your claims. So if you tell them that this thing works this way, and then it does work this way, you have all these people showing up over and over and over again and reiterating your message, versus spending more money to send somebody to walk into a store that is going to be forgotten about and that dies. So when I talk about like making your assets sweat, it's the same thing. Make your education sweat. Do it once, do it right, do it at scale, because that's the opportunity of High Buds Club, is to give you education at scale, and let us handle your distribution. You'll get better results. Hill I'll die on. Another hill I'll die on.
It is a holistic ecosystem. Every single time we do a PK session, we get that incredible turnout. And then afterwards, there is always a spike in conversation in your chat. always, from budtenders who were at the sesh and who weren't, because buds who were at the sesh will follow up and have more questions, or they'll just come in and be more excited about you. Buds who weren't there go there to ask questions because they know that there's like fresh information. Like we always see that spike. It is about the ecosystem. You have the most success when it all works together.
Yeah, I mean, because we built a system. It's not about the PK. It's not about the sample. It's not about the feed. It's like all of the things as a funnel to get the advocacy. You only talk to bud tenders truly, like, let's call a spade here. We only talk to bud tenders as an industry because they are the only real mouthpiece to get to consumers. So you're looking for them to advocate for you at retail. That's the only reason. All High Buds Club is a system in which brands can connect into to build advocacy. That's it. It's not about samples. It's not about PK. It's not about giving out a cool fucking t-shirt. Like, it's not. It's all of the things combined that are multi-channel approaches that make the bud tenders feel a way. They convince each other. Bob's your uncle. You got advocacy.
So you think everyone should have a brand space?
No, I don't actually think everybody should have a brand space, to be completely honest with you. I don't think that the brand that their value proposition is we're the cheapest needs to have a brand space. They'd have no story to tell. It's their story is we're the cheapest. I think brands that are just copycat brands also don't need a brand space because they don't have a unique point of view. But I think that if you know why you exist and you know who you are made to exist for, yeah, have a brand space.
You love that. With that, Jamie, should we close this bad boy down?
Okay, well, I've really loved this conversation, Sabine. I think we got a lot of hot gossip out there. Thank you to everybody who listened. If you've got any questions, hit us up. Peace.